Chapter 1. Shadows of Confinement. Eldur opened his eyes to a realm submerged in shadows, the air thick with the echoes of ancient powers and lost voices. This world, detached from reality, pulsed with a deep, undulating darkness that seemed alive with the memories of his past deeds. As he rose to his feet, the shadows around him whispered of battles fought and kingdoms fallen, echoes of a life spent in pursuit of domination and power. As he wandered through this shadowy landscape, Eldur's heart grew heavy with anger. He was a creature of ambition and control, not one to be confined or forgotten, like an old legend tucked away in the dusty pages of human books. His memories, unlike those of his companions, remained painfully intact, each one a sharp reminder of what he had lost and what he was determined to regain. In the distance, a fortress loomed, a massive structure carved from the very essence of the Shadow Realm. Its towers pierced the swirling mists, standing as a beacon in this otherwise formless expanse. With a sense of purpose reignited, Eldur strode towards the fortress, his resolve hardening with each step. As he approached the grand gates of the fortress, he noticed a peculiar shimmer in the air at the center of the main hall. A small rift in reality, glowing faintly, seemed to pulse with a potential escape, or perhaps a portal to a world he once ruled. His heart raced with the possibility of breaking free from this spectral prison. Just as he reached out to touch the rift, a powerful voice boomed through the hall, echoing off the stone walls with a command that halted him in his tracks. "Halt! Go no further!" From the shadows, a figure emerged. The custodian of the Shadow Realm, Veylan, stood before him. His form was both fluid and constant, a paradoxical presence crafted from the very essence of the realm itself. Veylan's appearance, his silhouette blurred and shifting, surrounded by a halo of dim light that seemed to flicker with the beat of this hidden world's heart. "Veylan," Eldur said, his voice a mix of recognition and defiance. "I am bound by no chains, not even those woven by cosmic decree." Veylan regarded Eldur with a gaze that held the weight of eons. "I am the Keeper, Eldur, created by the cosmic forces to guard this realm and ensure that none who are confined here may return to the reality from which they have been banished. You are here because the balance of your world could no longer tolerate your chaos." Eldur's fists clenched at his sides. "I will not be held by shadows and whispers. I demand return to my domain." The Shadow Realm is not merely a prison, but a crucible. Here, you will face the consequences of your past, and perhaps find redemption or eternal damnation. Veylan replied calmly, his voice echoing with a resonance that suggested not just authority, but an immutable decree. With the introduction of Veylan, the chapter sets the stage for Eldur's journey within the Shadow Realm, a journey that could either lead to his return to power or his final fall into the abyss of forgotten legends. The dynamics between the willful Eldur and the dutiful Veylan promise a clash of epic proportions, as one seeks freedom and the other ensures order. Chapter 2. Echoes of the Shadow Realm. As Eldur reached out to the shimmering rift, determined to reclaim his place in reality, the rift seemed to stretch infinitely away from his grasp. Despite his considerable power, the rift remained just beyond his reach, an elusive gateway mocking his efforts. "You cannot leave this place," Veylan's voice echoed around him, omnipresent and firm. "Your powers are insignificant here." With a dismissive wave of his hand, Veylan demonstrated his dominion over this domain. Eldur was suddenly thrust backward by an unseen force, tumbling through the shadows until darkness consumed him. Moments later, Eldur awoke with a start, finding himself back where his day had begun, far from the fortress and the tantalizing rift. He lay on the cold, shadow-drenched ground, the realization of his powerlessness settling over him like a suffocating blanket. Veylan is all-powerful in this place, Eldur muttered to himself, his voice tinged with frustration and defeat. I am but an insect, crawling at his feet. Determined not to succumb to despair, Eldur stood and began to wander through the vast, nebulous landscape of the Shadow Realm. As he walked, the realm seemed to pulse with the echoes of its prisoners, mythical legends and creatures reduced to mere wisps and shadows. Once mighty entities, now confined to the margins of reality, their powers nothing more than fleeting memories. Eldur's path led him through a swirling mist where he witnessed the spectre of a powerful demon, locked in an eternal battle with an unseen foe. The demon roared and struck with ferocity, but as Eldur approached, the image dissolved into the shadows, leaving a haunting silence in its wake. Continuing his journey, Eldur glimpsed the grandeur of ancient castles and halls, where shadowy figures of powerful elders debated and ruled. These visions of past supremacy were equally transient, fading into the mist as he neared. The land of shadow revealed its inhabitants in brief, vivid displays. Mighty werewolves prowling the ethereal forests, vampires in their darkened enclaves, exuding an air of lost nobility, and other mythical beings, like gargoyles perched atop forgotten ruins, their stone eyes surveying a realm they could no longer touch. Each figure appeared real and tangible for a fleeting moment, before melting back into the darkness from which they had emerged. As Eldur witnessed these phantoms of power and terror, he realized that the Shadow Realm was not just a prison, but a mirror reflecting the tragedies of its captives. Each creature, each legend that had once inspired awe and fear, now existed only as a shadow of its former self, powerless, aimless, and trapped within the confines of this dark purgatory. But Eldur, ever the strategist, saw more than despair in these apparitions. He saw potential allies, echoes of power that might, under his guidance, find a way to resist Veylan's omnipotence. It is my destiny to return to reality, he proclaimed into the oppressive darkness. And if I am to escape this cursed realm, I must gather these shadows under my command. With a newfound resolve, Eldur set out to rally the remnants of supernatural might, hoping to uncover a weakness in Veylan's armor, a chink through which they all might finally break free. Chapter 3. The Keeper's Decree. Eldur sat forlornly on the cold, shadow-strewn ground, his brilliant mind whirling with potential strategies that might offer an escape from this ethereal prison. As he pondered deeply, a voice resounded through the shadowy expanse, reverberating with absolute authority. There is no escape, Eldur, and soon you too shall become no more than a shadow, merely a fable within forgotten lore. Startled, Eldur turned to see Veylan standing ominously behind him. The Keeper's presence was both awe-inspiring and chilling, a stark reminder of the absolute power he wielded over the Shadow Realm. I show you these visions so you may fully grasp the hopelessness of your confinement. Reality was not meant for you or your kind. You are destined to be nothing more than shadows and fables, now and for all eternity. Eldur's gaze met Veylan's unyielding eyes, searching for any sign of weakness in the cosmic being before him. With a defiant tone, Eldur challenged him. And what does that make you, Veylan? You too are bound to this realm. Veylan's expression remained impassive as he responded, No, Eldur, I am not a prisoner. I am the keeper of the shadows. My purpose is to ensure that reality remains untainted by your kind. Refusing to cower, Eldur retorted sarcastically, Then make me a shadow, a mere wisp, a memory. It cannot possibly be as tedious as having to endure your pontifications. But in that moment, Veylan had already vanished, as if he were nothing more than a mirage or a trick of the light. Eldur looked around at the vast emptiness that surrounded him, the desolation of the Shadow Realm stretching infinitely in every direction. Mighty Veylan has formidable power, but there must be a way for me to claim it, Eldur mumbled to himself, his voice a mix of determination and vexation. Determined to find a crack in the seemingly impervious armor of the Keeper, Eldur rose to his feet. He knew that understanding Veylan's source of power was crucial. If Veylan derived his strength from the Shadow Realm itself, perhaps there was a way to turn that power against him. As night fell deeper across the realm of shadows, Eldur wandered through the eerie landscape, each step fueling his resolve. He knew the key to his freedom lay in unraveling the mysteries of this realm and its keeper, the whispers of the past, the echoes of mythical creatures, and the legends of old. Each held clues that Eldur intended to piece together. His plan was audacious, perhaps bordering on the impossible, but Eldur had always thrived in the face of adversity. If there was even a sliver of hope that he could harness the realm's power, he would find it, or be lost to the shadows trying. Chapter 4. The Hidden Refuge. You there? A faint voice called out, barely more than a whisper against the eerie silence of the Shadow Realm. Eldur spun around, scanning the desolate landscape, but saw nothing. Over here, the voice insisted. Focusing more intently, Eldur noticed a shimmering in the air, like a mirage or heat wave. Yes, the voice said, seeming to emanate from the distortion itself. As Eldur approached, an arm, an oddly proportioned, dwarfish limb, reached out and pulled him through the anomaly. He stumbled into a dimly lit cave, its walls aglow with a soft, unnatural light. Before him stood a small, dwarfish man, ancient and gnarled like the roots of an old tree. His eyes twinkled with a mix of mischief and wisdom. "Who are you?" Eldur demanded, regaining his composure. "And what is this place?" The dwarf chuckled softly, his voice crackling like dry leaves. "I am called Torbin, and this, my reluctant guest, is my sanctuary. I've dwelled here for many cycles, hidden from the Keeper's all-seeing eyes." Torbin motioned for Eldur to sit on a rough-hewn stone bench. "There are shadows within shadows here, crevices and folds in reality that even Veylan cannot peer into. But we must be cautious. Stray too long or too far from this haven, and his gaze will find us." Eldur, still processing his sudden transition from the barren outer realm to this hidden enclave, asked, "Are there others here?" Torbin shook his head. "No. It has been ages since Veylan allowed anyone to wander freely as long as you have. But know this, he will soon discover your absence, and he will be furious." "Good," Eldur replied, a smirk forming on his lips. "His anger may yet prove to be his undoing. Now let's talk about how I can leave this realm." Torbin's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Escape is not a matter of simple walks through portals, Eldur. Veylan's power here is absolute. Almost. There is one possibility, a legend really. It speaks of a core from which this realm draws its existence, a nexus of energy that Veylan guards fervently. Control the nexus, and you might control the way out." Eldur leaned forward, his interest piqued. "And where is this nexus?" "In the very fortress you tried to storm," Torbin said with a wry smile. "It is the heart of the Shadow Realm, deeply guarded and ensconced within layers of traps and spells." Eldur's mind raced, piecing together a plan. "Then we must find a way to reach it. If Veylan's attention is drawn to searching for me, perhaps we can use that distraction to our advantage." Torbin nodded, his expression serious. It will be dangerous, and we will need more than just cunning. We will need power. Power that might be gleaned from the very shadows we wish to escape. As they began to plot their next steps, the air in the cave seemed to thrum with potential, the shadows dancing more vigorously, as if sensing the brewing storm of rebellion against their master. Chapter 5. The Rescue from Shadows. Eldur, his mind racing with the possibilities Torben had laid before him, considered the implications. Is there any way to release others from the shadows? He asked, a mix of determination and dread in his voice. Torben, the aged keeper of secrets, replied thoughtfully, I have never been able to, but someone like you, an elder who is part shadow, might merge with the memories preserved in the shadows. However, be warned, the moment you attempt this, Veylan will surely sense the disturbance and be upon you swiftly. Eldur nodded, resolute despite the dangers. There is one I wish to free from the shadows, he confessed, his voice heavy with urgency. But how can we find the ones we seek when Veylan controls the realm? He controls the shadows, not the memories within them, Torben corrected softly. Eldur spent hours discussing strategies and learning more about the Shadow Realm's intricacies from Torben. Finally, he prepared for his first rescue mission, stealthily exiting the hidden cave. You have exactly 3 minutes before he notices your absence, Torben whispered as Eldur blended into the realm's eerie landscape. Transforming into his shadow form, Eldur merged with the ethereal wisps, each one a fleeting memory of tales and fables. Are you there? He called into the void. Almost immediately, 2 enormous eyes appeared in the sky, Veylan's gaze piercing through the darkness towards the disturbance. Are you there? Eldur called again, desperation edging his voice. A winged creature snapped at him from the shadows, and Eldur hastily retreated from the memory. Torben's voice echoed in his mind. It's too late. He'll see you. But then, Eldur spotted a familiar face within another shadow memory. It's a trap. He's luring you, Torben warned. Ignoring the danger, Eldur plunged back into the shadows, crying out, We can be free. Grab my hand. His shadowy arm stretched into the nothingness, the shadows swirling menacingly around him. Suddenly, a hand clasped his. With a forceful pull, he dragged the figure from the shadow memory into the physical world. Confused and dazed, Serana stood beside him, her eyes wide with shock. Wasting no time, Eldur pulled her along to the safety of the hidden cave, just as Veylan appeared outside, his formidable presence scanning the area. They slipped inside just in time, the entrance concealing them once again from the keeper's prying eyes. Inside the cave, Torben let out a relieved sigh. That was too close. Serana, coming out of her daze, looked up with recognition and a mix of emotions. Eldur, she uttered, her voice a blend of relief and bewilderment. Eldur nodded at her, his expression serious but relieved. Welcome back, Serana. It's time we talk about how we can use this newfound freedom to our advantage. His eyes gleamed with the fires of rebellion, now fueled by his successful rescue, and the potential for more allies to be freed from their shadowy prison. Chapter 6. The Search for Winter. As the flickering light of the hidden cave cast long shadows on the walls, Eldur, Serana, and Torben continued their deep discussion into the murky hours of the Shadow Realm's night. Eldur leaned forward, his voice echoing with resolve. We need someone with the intellect to truly overcome our dilemma. Someone powerful enough to outwit this Veylan. Torben shook his head, his old eyes weary yet sharp. Veylan is all-powerful here. There is no creature, from past or future, no being powerful enough to match Veylan's power in the Shadow Realm. Eldur, undeterred, speculated. If we could find the sage, maybe he could... His voice trailed off, pondering the possibilities. Serana interrupted, bringing a new angle to the conversation. What about winter? She suggested, her tone mixing curiosity with a hint of caution. Eldur turned to look at her, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. I like the way you think, he acknowledged. Then he turned to Torben. Winter was not just any man. There was something unique about him. If we could find him and free him, perhaps he could be the key to defeating Veylan. Torben, perplexed, rubbed his chin. Winter. I have never heard of such a creature or person, and I have seen them all. Are you sure he is part of the shadows here? Eldur responded. He was a man, yes, but he possessed abilities and a presence that went beyond the ordinary. If there's even a slight chance he's confined here, we need to explore it. Serana added, her voice tinged with realism. But of course, there's always the possibility that he defeats us too. If we release him from the shadows, are we prepared to face not just Veylan, but possibly winter if things don't go as planned? Eldur and Torben exchanged a look, the gravity of the situation settling upon the trio. We need to find him first, Eldur concluded. Torben, tell us about these shadows within shadows. How can we search them without drawing Veylan's attention again? Torben began to explain, detailing the intricate layers of the shadow realm and the pockets of deeper darkness where even Veylan's eyes might not reach. There are places, folds in the fabric of this realm, where even the Keeper might not see clearly. We can use these to search for winter discreetly, he described, his voice low to avoid carrying through the coroner's space. Eldur nodded, absorbing every detail. Then we begin our search at first shadows fall tomorrow. Serana, you and I will explore these folds. Torben, you will stay here and keep watch. If Veylan suspects anything, you'll be our warning. The plan set. The three of them settled down to rest, the weight of their upcoming mission pressing heavily upon their minds. As the shadows danced along the cave walls, the potential to change their fate, a sliver of hope in the darkness, seemed just within reach. Chapter 7. Shadows of Betrayal. Eldur and Serana, shrouded in their shadow forms, slipped silently from the hidden cave. The landscape was dotted with ghostly sentinels, Veylan's minions, tasked with watching for any rebellion. Moving with stealth, they evaded these watchers, but it was Serana's curiosity that halted their cautious trek. At the edge of a particularly vivid shadow memory, a lively old town square frozen in time, Serana paused. Wait, she whispered, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of nostalgia and mischief. She stepped into the memory, immersing herself in the bustling scene of a bygone era. Eldur, intrigued, followed her. Inside, the townspeople went about their daily lives, oblivious to the predators now walking among them. Serana approached a man, her smile widening. With a swift grace, she bit into his neck, draining him of his life. It's good. She sighed contentedly, her face a picture of satisfaction. Eldur, not to be outdone, chose his own victim, reveling in the forgotten pleasure of feeding on a living soul. Panic ensued among the spectral townsfolk, their ephemeral forms scattering in terror. Back in the shadow realm, their brief indulgence had not gone unnoticed. As they emerged from the memory, they were met by a host of shadowy figures, Veylan's enforcers, ready to capture them. However, something had changed. The elders felt surges of power coursing through their veins, a direct result of their feeding. Tired of evasion and bolstered by their newfound strength, Eldur decided it was time to confront their pursuers. Enough hiding, he declared, turning to face the dark agents. Together, Eldur and Serana unleashed their enhanced powers, battling the shadowy creatures with a ferocity that turned the tide in their favor. Defeated, the shadow agents dissipated into the ether, leaving Eldur and Serana to return triumphantly to their cave refuge. Torben, witnessing their return and the display of their power, was astounded. "I have never seen Veylan's forces defeated before. How is this possible?" he asked, his voice a mix of fear and admiration. Serana, wiping the residual blood from her lips, shared a look with Eldur. "Feeding on those memories. It's enhanced our powers," she realized aloud. Eldur's eyes sparkled with a ruthless calculation. "Imagine what could happen if we fed on more potent creatures from these memories," he mused, considering the possibilities. Their conversation took a darker turn as they both glanced at Torben. Wait, I helped you," Torben pleaded, sensing their predatory shift. Serana's voice was cold, her decision final. "And you can still help us further." Her words were followed by Torben's scream, echoing through the shadow realm as the two elders fed on their one-time ally. Now empowered and unrestrained by any semblance of gratitude, Eldur and Serana faced a new dilemma: free the potent memories of the shadow realm to enlist their help, or consume them to steal their powers and challenge Veylan directly. As they plotted their next move, the question loomed large. Would their thirst for power see them escape back to reality, or would it lead them into a deeper darkness? The shadows of the realm held their breath, waiting for the next move in the game of power and betrayal that was unfolding. Find out in the next episode of Crimson Dawn, The Shadow Realm.